Speaking of, slavish devotion to the national security state.
Indeed. Excellent.
They just got some more money.
Some great bipartisan love going on in D.C. This is incredible. Okay, throw this tear sheet up on the screen. So in an almost unanimous vote, Republicans and Democrats came together in a closed-door markup of the annual defense budget and decided that, the Biden administration, they asked for $715 billion. We're going to go ahead and bump that up. We actually want it to be $740 billion. And again, passed almost unanimously, 25-1 in this committee hearing. Elizabeth Warren was the single lone vote against this. And I mean, this is incredible for any number of reasons. First of all, in this Politico story, you got to love this. They say, on Thursday, senators from both parties touted the investments that this bill, with their additional funding that they just went ahead and put in here, that bill would make in weapons programs and installations in their states. The final bill authorizes $778 billion in total for national defense programs and boosts funding for major weapon systems. So again, I want you to note that language. They're not touting how essential this money is to protect and defend the United States. They're touting it because of what it's going to mean in terms of military installations and investments, which you should read as more money to defense contractors, essentially. So they're not even really pretending this is about national defense and making sure that we're all safe or any of that. It's also just incredible, the type of things that get complete bipartisan support, and also the type of things that you have to pay for and the type of things that they're just dying to throw more money at. We're in the midst of this huge debate about the reconciliation bill and the infrastructure package, and the way that conservatives are trying to whittle that down is by attacking the pay-fors and demanding that every penny in that infrastructure package and reconciliation bill is ultimately paid for, every single penny. And yet when it comes to defense spending, they're like, $25 billion, we want to give you a little more. This wasn't enough, well, let's throw you a few more billion here.
Which is actually in violation of what and this is the key to the story, which is the headline is the Senate Democrats defied Biden in their vote to boost Pentagon spending, and it wasn't even close. And as you point out, the extra money is going towards the F-35 program, one of the gigantic boondoggles of the 21st century, and pretty much a shining example of why the military-industrial complex not only costs more money, but is actually worse at its job than it was in 1959 or 1960 or whatever, whenever Eisenhower was giving that speech. At least those planes actually flew pretty well. These apparently don't, which that's one part of it which always drives me nuts. We're paying more for technology which is worse and is actually less safe for the people who have to climb into these planes. All that being said, you look at what's happening here, and it is very indicative around where bipartisanship converges. And if this was something principled around look, we're going to do this because there's one particular program, or, we're coming out of Afghanistan, we need to plus up in order to modernize, I'd be like, okay, I'm all here.
Servicemen and women a raise.
Yeah,
we need to make sure they've got the right health care.
Want to give them a raise. Yes, actually, our current healthcare system for the Pentagon, I think, costs $125 billion, and as anybody who's ever worked with the VA knows, doesn't work that well. There's a whole lot of questions. USAA, better GI benefits. I'd be 100% for all of that, but that's not what's happening here. The plus up, as you point out, was also driven by a lot of people who are up for re-election. So Mark Kelly is one of those people, former naval aviator. He said the budget buildup was needed to meet military requirements that didn't make the spending request. And those military requirements and more, of course, he's from Arizona, where because of John McCain and all of that, there is a lot of military spending in the state of Arizona. Tim Kaine was the same one. He's like, well, we need it, because they want to build a new Navy destroyer. The Navy's had their eyes on the destroyer for a long time. It's a pretty controversial program, even within the Navy. Well, Norfolk, Virginia, right? There's a lot of jobs and a lot of stuff down there. And he happens to be a senior armed services Democrat who represents the shipbuilding heavy state. And he says that the Pentagon needs more buying power. And so they can say that that actually is one of the better things. you'll love this too, which is that he says that the Pentagon will have better buying power because Biden halted the Trump administration effort to stunt billions from the border wall under military. So he's like, we can use all this new money to buy more shipbuilding materials, which will all come to Virginia.
Yeah,
it's a scramble.
That wasn't enough. The wall money wasn't enough.
Well,
you
exactly.
Need more on top
you
of
need
that.
more money on top. And so the money all gets, appropriated. And really what it is, it's a scramble in order to use control of the Senate and of Congress in order to distribute funds to their states. And whenever so really what it is, it's like a patronage game. And whenever you're locked into this mindset, whenever you change chambers, everyone's just going to keep going up and up and up to get more stuff in their districts and more. And the main point I want to say is you can be for the U.S. military and even a good modern fighting force and recognize that the current way that we fund that fighting force is insane in terms of the amount of dollars per what we actually get. I remember looking at this thing about these new Navy ships, which are radar defeat and all of this, but it costs like $1 million a round in order to fire their new guns. What is that? How did this happen? And it was like, well, we were gonna build 26, and then we only built 3, and the gun is really modern and cool, and so you can't change apparently the ammo or whatever the fire, so it costs $1 million a round. You're like, what? I mean, you think this is useful in terms of fighting a war or in terms of production, in terms of keeping people safe? The boondoggles of the post-Iraq age on this would blow people's minds in terms of what we have spent on Iraq, on Afghanistan. I remember there was one story we spent a couple $100 million building like one gas station in Afghanistan. Oh, and by the way, the Taliban controls it now. So awesome. Or power stations in the same thing, trying to build, and bring power. And now the Taliban charges people for the power. That we built. It's just, there's so many stories.
There's also a great point to that, which is like, when we go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, of course, then the politicians say, we got to up the defense budget massively. Nobody even questions that. Of course, the Bush administration pioneered, like, we're not going to pay for that. There are not going to be any additional taxes. Nobody's going to feel any pain from the fact that we're having this massive explosion in the military budget. But it's not like once you leave those places, they bring it back down. Like, it only ever goes up. We're leaving Afghanistan, and yet they're still like, we need more. More, not just more year over year, but like Biden increased the budget, but it wasn't enough. The rate of growth wasn't fast enough for us. And you're absolutely right. It is just a patronage game. Yeah. Like, you shouldn't look at this as having anything to do with care for our servicemen and women, certainly, or protecting our national defense. It is a patronage game, and it's one that you're going to be able to get bipartisan support on. So if you're trying to funnel money to your district for political reasons, this is the surest and easiest path to do it. So it creates its own logic and its own momentum, and it's very, very hard to stop. I don't think that there's any way to get around having that like patronage situation as part of our politics. I would just like the patronage to go towards something that's not war making, that's like, has actual benefits to the citizens of the country, not just making new war machines for the sake of making new war machines. So that would be something that I was interested in, but just incredible to see bipartisanship in action here at the Beltway.
Oh, 100%.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.